Hello, I'm Ron Duecker with Pyramyd Archery. Today, let's talk about hunting whitetail deer and your initial setup. I wanted to start off, this is the first time I've looked at a property. I've been on this property and be able to take a look and say, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna do it? And what am I gonna set up? So let's go through those tips and tricks real quick. First thing is, we're on the top of a ridge here. So what that tells me, I'm gonna look around, and first thing I'm gonna do every time is find food. When I look around, you can see we're in a browse field right here. There's a soybean or some type of bean field over there. And then behind us is a tree line with some corn. So we have food. It doesn't matter what type it is. You could have clover, you could have radishes, you could have anything. As long as you have some type of food source, that's usually a good place to start, right? Then I'm gonna take a look at the tree line around the adjacent area. And what you're gonna see is, right over here, what I'm looking for is I know that there's a heavy amount of does on this property, because you're gonna see about 5 foot high, which is about shoulder height from me and down, you're gonna have pretty much all of the foliage, all the leaves, everything is gonna be stripped off of that land from that point down. That tells you that does are coming in and out of there on a regular basis. As well as directly right behind us, you're gonna see the exact same thing. And since we have a crossing field, there's a very good chance that you have does coming both ways, transit from each of the different spots. So over inside of here, you're gonna see what you're looking for is you have the browse line up close and personal, so you can see right about here and below, you're gonna have absolutely no foliage. But if you see that big kind of like mess of branches over there from a fallen tree, once you get past there, it's all solid leaves. That would tell me that there's not really animals coming out of there. You don't have to really worry about that, but it could be a good place to put a stand depending on where your wind is, because you know you're not putting them right on top of the animals. If you put your stand inside of this range right here, you're actually gonna have deer coming right up underneath you. Not usually the best option. So I would go down a little bit further depending on wind and put a stand down over this way. You can see there's evidence that they actually are coming out, and you can tell here's a doe lane right here that I'm standing on, and this doe lane is zigzagging in and out of the property, and you'll see coming right out just where I would have expected it. And then I would go to the other side and inspect that and tell me, yeah, pretty much there's transit here. I can see the transit lanes all the way through this browse field, so definitely have deer coming through here. Now what you also have to consider is the way that the bucks move. So are you hunting for does or are you hunting for bucks? Right now on this property, I would be hunting for does and older does, because when you see heavy browse lines like that, typically it means that you're starting to get overpopulated with does. And when that happens, you start having less competition for the bucks to find mates. You have less movement of the deer, and as far as the bucks go. So if you are looking for a buck, you may actually have to take a doe a couple of years here in order to then get higher and higher quality bucks competing and out there moving around. So you can see some buck fights, you can make some rattles and have them actually respond. So inside of that, well then, you'll notice that about 15 yards, 10 to 15 yards south or downwind, in this instance, of the doe lane is gonna be some sort of a buck entrance, which is gonna be right over here. Now the reason they do that is the does typically travel first, and they travel and they'll be the first one to come up to the tree line. They'll be the first one to enter the field. They'll enter a couple of all clear bleats, things like that, to allow all the other does to know it's time to come in. The bucks don't want to mess with that. So what they do is they wait for the doe to call clear. They're 10 to 15 minutes behind them, and if the does are in there already feeding, they know it's probably going to be safe. That's why you're going to see a buck kind of more just walk right into a field and into a browse, whereas the does will take their time. Okay? So what you'll also see is, if you're going to be doing some sort of a scent profile along this tree line, what's going to happen with doe behavior is they're going to come right up to any transition point. So we're talking transitions. This is a transition, which means right here we have forest and then we have food, right? So inside of that, every transition point, that includes streets, it includes roads, it includes everything, they will pause. And they're just going to stand there for a little bit and get a lay of the land and try to figure out what's going on. And so they'll come right up here. The reason why that's important for scent is the longer a deer stands in the same place, the better chance she has of urinating, defecating. There will be tarsal gland scents here. This will be a scent hotspot for the bucks to check, as well as for the does to know which does are using and which part of the herd is using this particular lane. So this is where I would actually start my initial scent. So I'd put a little bit of, if it's rut time, I would put a little bit of doe and estrus here. If it's not, I would put just regular doe urine here and maybe some tarsal scent as well, which then signifies to the buck or the other does that, hey, this is being used, it's being frequented, it's been recent. And that's really what you're trying to do, is that identify to them it's been recent, brings their guard down a little bit, so then they come out of the tree line and are continuing into the browse. So then the next part is that this is one thing I see. You know, you guys can comment and subscribe how you do it. Like, we want to hear from you as well, because there's a million and one ways to hunt. I'm just giving you what I've found most successful over the years, is that deer drags, typically I'm not a big fan of. The reason being is that you can't imagine that a deer, that's natural in any way, shape, or form. And I've seen younger bucks, I've seen button bucks, I've seen younger does, things like that, follow those lines. But the trophies, I've not really gotten to bite on that. And the reason is it's not natural, right? So if you put a little bit of estrus here or a little bit of doe scent, go ahead and step in it. Put your boot on it and then take big steps. And as you take a step, you're now putting scent here and then scent here, right? And it's getting less and less and less as you make your way across the field. And if you need to refresh, that's fine. Bring your can and just put a little drop here or there along the way. But what you're doing is you're giving that, kind of think of it as like the big buck sitting there going, okay, I smell a little estrus. They take a couple of steps. They want to try to figure it out. They like the chase too, right? So they take a couple of steps. They don't smell anything, take a couple more steps. And then they're like, oh, I smell it again. Okay, I'm on the right trail. And then they take a couple of steps. So it's kind of like a puzzle with them. What that does in their brain is it gives you as the archer or the shotgun guy or the air gun guy the opportunity to take a shot, because they have to stop and think, as well as they're in their own mind thinking, huh, am I right? Did I take the right step? Should I go on right? Should I go on left? Do I have the scent or do I not have the scent? And as they go down that process, they're going to identify and say, okay, I'm going to pause a second to think about that. And when they pause to think, boom, that's when you fill your tag. And you don't have to bleat, you don't have to grunt, you don't have to do anything. They're going to naturally do it just based on the scent profile that you did. Now, if you have an area, so for me, this area is very heavily doe, so you're going to see that everything that I've talked about there, I would only use doe scent here. I would not use buck. Now, if I didn't see the browse line, that would be an indication to me that, hey, there's a lot more competitive bucks here. That means that they're going to have to be, they're used to fighting for their territory, fighting for their does, fighting for mates, fighting for everything. So if they're in that situation, that's when I pull out the buck in rut. So right around the rut, a little bit before, a little bit after. A lot of people don't know that the rut is actually about 80–85% of the does actually go into heat during the rut. There's like 5% before, 10% after, the month after, and like 5% way after. So it's actually about a 4-month window. So you can still hit those big bucks a month or two before or after. And you can use the buck in rut any time of that period. Okay, so let's go into the woods. Entering into the tree line is you entering the deer highway. So respect that and consider that. I always say you don't, unless you're like putting down scent, you don't want to stand on any of their paths. Reason being is they operate based on scent, and they will scent that, and that can spook them. So entering in the tree line, just inside, what I'm looking for is just verification of what I've already seen on the outside, right? So what you've got here is you've got the cornfield, but most importantly, you see the lane coming straight off the corner of the field, heading through that path that we were at earlier. Also, what you're going to see that could be missed is that if you look down, you're going to see a lot of acorns. Any type of food, any type of nut, any type of berry or anything that you've got that they could browse on, that's going to be their full season. So even into the late season with snow on the ground, they can still smell those and get to them. As well as there's little pieces of corn on the cob laying around here that they've taken from the field and have finished over here. So this is definitely going to be a hot spot. So actually, when you take a look in here, you're going to see there's a couple of different lanes. There's about 6 lanes. There's one here, one here, one here, one here. There's a whole bunch of movement inside of the corner of this little area right here. And they're all coming out to this central here, which, yeah, no surprise there. The obvious sign, we got some deer droppings there. So what that tells you is that the deer are either coming off of the field into here and dispersing out to different bedding locations or other feed areas, or they're coming from the different areas all through to here. What this means, this is a hot spot. You've got not only food and everything, the most common thing for people you're gonna wanna do is, oh, this is a hot spot. Let's put our stand right there. No, 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 no. You can do that. There are guys that have success with that, but you're not playing the odds, and I want you to play the odds and have the most successful hunt that you possibly can. So if you're gonna do that, the prevailing wind is actually coming into my face right now. So if you're gonna hunt here, you either wanna be a stand way back there, or again, probably right over here on that ridge where we saw over that. So that just confirms to me, if I'm gonna hunt the field, that's where I want my stand. If I'm gonna hunt the tree line and be inside of the tree line here, I'm actually gonna be a little bit further back, and I'm gonna hunt these crossing lanes depending on where the wind is blowing. Since it's coming straight at my face, if you look back, you wanna kind of find a tree. There's a big tree right there, looks like a maple tree, that I would put my stand in, and then be able to hunt all 6 of these lanes, 3 this way and 3 this way, all come in here with my scent blowing away from them. When the heat comes, I'm gonna be just sending my scent up over it. When it goes down at nighttime, it's still gonna be away from all of the deer. So I can come in here, walk right through here, get into my stand early morning or early afternoon, and I will be fine. And then the only thing you gotta wait for is, remember that you have to have a way out. So you'll have to wait quite a little bit of time, maybe an hour or 2 after dusk before you get out of your stand, before you can get out without spooking any animals around here. I'm Ron Duecker with Pyramyd Archery. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and follow our shorts on YouTube.